Today, on Locked On Phoenix Suns, we're down to two. And not the two you thought they were. Johnnie Bryant, Jordan Ott, the good, the bad, and the ugly of both. Who will be the Suns head coach? We're breaking it all down. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Suns. I'm Brendon, Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Tuesday. Don't forget Locked On Suns, free and available. Interview Tuesday, I should say. Michigan Interview Tuesday. Free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Guys, click that follow, subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer. Get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. We'll break down both of the two candidates who are part of the Interview Tuesday. Joining me to do all of it and talk about the Toronto Raptors as a potential wild card this NBA offseason. As always, from the wonderful West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling? Ben Garcia.
What's up, man? Two things. One, I should have mentioned this before the show. Looks like we got decided we were going to just get dressed, wear the same thing. You put your hat forward for this instance. And two, Johnnie Bryant. Wow. Just making the finalist list. Hey, listen, good thing, Johnnie Bryant, my guy. Bad thing, I might be having the same sports takes or aligned with Brian Gregory, and I'm not so sure if that's a good thing, Brendon. I'm not so sure if that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, we'll start with Jordan Ott here. He is currently an assistant for the Cavs as well, of course, and I actually think it kind of worked out for us because these are the two dudes we probably have dug in least on, really deep dived because, again, we did not expect this to be the last two. I don't think. We had heard Gambo thought it would be Sweeney and Quinn. Then there was some question as to if Sweeney even made the last round, and now he's not obviously one of these two. And, why did that happen? Whatever, that's a conversation for a different time. But Ott is 1 year with Cleveland. Before that, 2 years under. He comes from the Bud coaching tree, which is hilarious. Obviously, he originally comes from Michigan State, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But it's hilarious that he was originally hired as a video coordinator when Bud was coaching the Hawks. But if we work backward from now, those Lakers seasons, that happened because of Darvin Ham, who also is part of Bud's coaching tree. The part that I actually don't think is getting enough attention, that might be the most interesting part of his candidacy, Ben, is the Nets run. He was with Brooklyn for 6 years, which bridged across 3 coaches. If not 4. He worked for Atkinson, he worked for Nash, and he worked for Ime Udoka.
Oh, I was going to say Jacques Vaughn.
Oh, sorry, Jacques Vaughn. I got them mixed up.
Okay, there we go.
Ime Udoka
right.
there. Jacques Vaughn is absolutely correct. I got those two guys, both hard-ass defensive coaches. I got them confused. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. And I was doing some digging there. And before that, it was the Hawks and Michigan State. But to lock in on that Nets part of it, he was described in a few different articles that I read. And if this doesn't get Suns fans' attention and make them get on board despite the Spartan energy, I don't know what will. He was Steve Nash's offensive coordinator. I saw that phrase verbatim. If you don't think Steve Nash's offensive right-hand man is good enough, you're not a real Suns fan. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, let's piggyback off that really quickly. You did more than, I'm not saying yes because I knew that. That's inauthentic of me. I was reaching out to, I've been talking actually constant contact since last Friday with Danny Cunningham of Locked On Cavs, super plugged in. It's his 9-to-5 job. That's all he does. And he was asking me my opinions of Jordan Ott. And he had said to me right away, he goes, I hope he stays. That's my guy. And also mentioned he had a ton to do with the offense. He had a lot of say in the Cavs offense, is what Danny told me over with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And so what does that tell you? Okay, well, he had a little bit of success with Donovan Mitchell, and leads me to, Devin Booker, right? If Devin Booker wants to be utilized correctly, and we've talked about him being a part of this coaching search, maybe Booker sees Ott's fingerprints on Donovan Mitchell's offensive game and thinks to himself, that could be me. Now, they play a little bit different style of games. But I'm just saying that you want to play into that offensive role. If he had a lot of say over with the Cavs, Nash's guy, that's something. And God, I'm so over the Michigan State thing, but that's another thing.
Yeah, you can't possibly look at what Cleveland did on offense this year, no matter who you are. Brian Gregory, Devin Booker, freaking rookie A, B, or C who they may draft at 29 and not be very excited about what that can do for your game. I mean, they turned Ty Jerome back into an NBA player who's going to get paid this summer, and they made, Evan Mobley took huge strides, on and on down the line. The Donovan Mitchell thing, I think, applies probably more to the next guy we're going to talk about, because those two are like blood brothers. Johnnie Bryant and Donovan Mitchell are like genuine friends and life partners, from what it sounds like. Like, they're human friends. So, like, but if your book, like, of course you could see yourself fitting into what Cleveland did. The cutting, the off-ball movement, bombing from three. It's not to mention, like, to go back to the Brooklyn thing, that team, the number one thing that I like about it, and it's a little bit less related to book, but it's another illustration of Ott's creativity, is if you remember those Nets teams, before Claxton developed, and so he wasn't there the 2022-23 season. He had gone to LA at that point, and that's when Claxton really broke out. Before that, Bruce Brown was their center. If people remember that weird experimental thing that they had to do, the guy who went on to be Denver's, key role player, beat the Suns, everything. That guy was playing center for them. And that basically inspired this whole generation, or this little mini era of guys like Gary Payton II, even Josh Okogie, who we saw in Phoenix, being used as big men but being wings. And I'm not saying that to say like there's a one-to-one this player on the Suns, but I'm saying it to show he is an outside the box guy. Different places he's been able to unlock new little wrinkles based on the personnel provided to him. And I don't know how you couldn't be intrigued about that, even if, again, and we should just address the elephant in the room because we both talked around it twice. Last show, yesterday, I threw this at you at the end, kind of blindsided you. I said, what are the chances Ott's one of the last two? And you're like, shut up, basically. That's not happening.
I did say that.
Here we are. The Michigan State thing, even if they hire him, and we all love him at the press conference, and we can sit here and break down his resume, there's going to be a big portion of fans who are listening to this right now who will be following the team next season, people around the league, media, everything, who will just roll their eyes and say, nepotism, whatever, this is just another Spartan family tree hire, and it's a big joke.
To my answer to that would be this, because I'm really sick of it. Brian Gregory, I've said this before, and you agree, I believe, was not qualified for this job. Did not have any of the qualifications that really met the idea of being the Suns general manager. Jordan Ott might get hired because of the nepotism aspect of him being an MSU grad, sure. But he has the qualifications. You pointed this out to me this morning of Johnnie Bryant's got one more year of experience than Jordan Ott does. What pisses off everyone, and what they should just say is, they liked Chris Quinn better. They liked Sean Sweeney better. And I said it too. It does kind of suck that he beat out all those guys, but I'm not in the rooms, man. He could be wowing these guys behind closed doors. And listen, believe it or don't, I did hear the reports today from Gambo saying that this was all Brian Gregory run. Now, take it with a grain of salt, because it seems like every reporter has had pieces of the truth, but no one has had the entire thing.
Well, and you and I were able to get a hold of one person who interviewed in the first round, and they told us it was just a Zoom with Brian Gregory, right? So, I think that's true, and I don't think it's because of Ishbia, but look, Brian Gregory also went to MSU, so he could be affecting.
True.
His
Very
bias
true.
could be there too, even if it is just him. It doesn't have to be Ishbia. But here's the thing, like, if they had hired Magic Johnson to be the next head coach, or David Fizdale, not even all these people are MSU people, but close to Ishbia, personal connection-based hires, running it back type of mentality. Isaiah Thomas or something, or freaking Tom Izzo jumps to the pros or whatever, like the Pete Carroll in Vegas type hire. Like, I would think it was stupid. Even Steve Hetzel who also popped up in this search. I don't think of him as being ready. His experience is not been on good teams at the NBA level. This guy's not like that. I think that he is more than experienced enough, and his resume stacks up just fine against everybody else that you could put him, everybody else in this search. The last thing I'll throw out that I like, he coached the Lakers Summer League team a couple years ago. He coached the Cavs Summer League team last year, and he's done this stuff. Like, he was signed on to, I found this article saying this summer he's signed on to coach the Cavs Summer League team again and be an assistant for Team Latvia in Eurobasket. He's done stuff with this like 3 SSB select team, which is like an AAU group. Even as a pro coach, he bounces around, and he seems to really be a grinder guy who just gets experience and absorbs basketball stuff at every chance that he can. And I like that. So if he's picked, I'll have the reservations because of the connections, but I won't think it's a bad hire.
Well, I mean, listen, man, you can't think it's a bad hire because the guy has the experience. You might have liked someone else. I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to the fan base, where it's like, you might have liked Chris Quinn. Chris Quinn might have sucked behind closed doors. Let's be honest. We don't actually know anything about these assistant coaches. We can only grade them off of the teams that they've been and their Wikipedia articles. This guy might be awesome. Like, the nepotism thing is a little frustrating because it was nepotism combined with inexperience for Brian Gregory. With Jordan Ott, you're just getting upset because it's someone Mat Ishbia likes, and he's been on maybe Mat Ishbia likes, and he hasn't been on a heater in terms of hires. So listen, man, nepotism happens in every sport. The Utah Jazz just hired his son to be the assistant GM, and no one's pointing that out. LeBron James
to be
drafted
promoted
his own
from
son.
the assistant GM to be the president of basketball operations.
There you go.
Yeah, so
like, it just happened.
Right.
Utah just did it, and then LeBron just drafted his son. Like, look at
there's
the
a level that's
Yes.
normal. This doesn't cross it. And you're right. Neither one of us had Ott first. We're not trying to blow smoke or be revisionist about anything. He wouldn't be our pick. I think out of these two, he still wouldn't be our pick.
No,
but that doesn't mean he's bad. So let's get to the guy who would be our pick coming up next. First, today's show brought to you by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or a service provider. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? No, you moved on. Found somebody else. That's why if you're a business owner, you need Open Phone. Open Phone's the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. I've told you the story before. My little sister's still doing the same job at Northern Arizona. She had to use her personal cell phone to call like potential hires for the university or students who were having issues with enrollment and all this. So they didn't give her a phone. They didn't have like a business phone like this or an app or something like Open Phone to get her set up. So she's all embarrassed and feeling awkward trying to, dial people up and do *67. It's nonsense. That's unprofessional. Open Phone, though, it's perfect. We're offering our listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA to try it out for yourself. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone. No missed calls, no missed customers. All right. Keeping it rolling, let's talk about Johnnie Bryant, the associate head coach over in Cleveland. How much do you buy the conspiracy theory? Just give me brief answer on this, that the Suns are trying to steal somebody from Dan Gilbert, that Mat Ishbia is just being petty with his mortgage company rival.
Dude, forget the trying to steal someone from the Dan Gilbert tree or whatever, right? What if he's trying to steal both? Like, what would satisfy everyone? Me, you, Mat Ishbia. He gets to hire his guy Jordan Ott to be the head assistant MSU guy, and then he makes Johnnie Bryant the head coach, and then makes Ott the highest paid assistant in the NBA. He already did it once with Kevin Young. And if you want to stick it to your guy, Dan Gilbert, and kind of twist the knife on that team that kind of had a disappointing end of the season, that's the way to do it. I buy that theory more than just wanting to take a guy from the Cleveland Cavaliers. So that's where I would land on it.
Very well could be both. We'll see. I I love Bryant's experience. I've said that multiple times. I've talked about that when I was doing national NBA coverage. I would rave about this guy as why is he not getting more of a look as a head coaching candidate. Sort of indirectly also from the Bud tree because he got hired under Quinn Snyder in Utah. And of course, Snyder came from those Hawks staffs. Then he went after 6 years in Utah as a formal assistant coach. Went to be the right-hand man, kind of associate head coach and like offensive guy for Tom Thibodeau, who of course is, more of a defensive guru. Did that for 4 years, led them to some of their highest heights, built around Julius Randle, built around Jalen Brunson. Obviously last year's team with guys like Dante DiVincenzo with those deep transition bombing threes that he helped do. And then, of course, had a really prominent role with what Cleveland's turnaround looked like this year. Still only 39. Also played pretty high-level college basketball at Utah in the Pac-12, and he's been around the block, needless to say. So we said it already. I think both of us like this guy better, Ben, and the experience kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, listen, man, I'm feeling great. This is the guy I've been riding since the beginning, and I won't shy away from a lot of it. Just comes from I really respect Kenny Atkinson. I like what he's done for a long time, and now he's the lead guy. But I think what more speaks to, because I can only go off of what my guy Danny was saying from Locked On Cavs that what him and I were talking about. And one of the things that he had mentioned to me, which extending from that conversation, was, what about Bryant? And I said, I just like Bryant more. And he said, yeah, he's more NBA ready to be a head coach than Jordan Ott, even though Jordan Ott is his guy. And also mentioned he would bring a culture because he's so set in stone in the scene of the NBA. And obviously he knows this guy, right? And so what more do the Suns need than, yes, as an X's and O's guy, they need someone that can bring a culture. And that really stood out to me from talking to Danny, because the Suns need that guy to be able to come in and establish a presence and rid all of their sins and come into it and start a new offense. And then we mentioned as well, the Donovan Mitchell stuff. That is his guy, conjoined at the hip in two separate places now. Devin Booker sees that as well, either Ott or Bryant, and says, look what they did with him. What can they do with me? I think you and I would both agree Booker's a better player than Donovan Mitchell, or at least I would say that, that much so. And so for that reason, I really like Johnnie Bryant. So I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, when you're talking about this is what I was alluding to in the last segment. If you just Google Johnnie Bryant, Donovan Mitchell, they go back 11 years. Or I guess Donovan didn't get drafted until 17. So 8 years. Bryant's been a coach for 11. The Knicks, not so secretly, hired Johnnie Bryant because they wanted to poach Donovan Mitchell. Yeah. Right? And then the Cavs hired him back once they got Donovan Mitchell to make Donovan more comfortable and elevate his game and everything. This is even bigger than Kevin Young, Devin Booker. These guys are friends. I think Donovan's been quoted as calling him a brother. Similar to Kevin Young and Devin Booker, even though he's the associate head coach, Bryant still was the guy on court working Donovan out pregame, giving him, his passes for getting shots up and everything. That's what it is. And so that type of thing is a perfect illustration of the personal relationships that Bryant's been able to build with players. There's no better example with the best player he's ever coached, basically, right? So I think that's great. He just feels more ready. I think that's totally fair to say. The guy's been an associate head coach for 5 years. Some people do that for 1 year and they get stolen away.
Well,
he's right there.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to harp on that really quickly of the Johnnie Bryant, Jordan Ott thing. I mentioned this a couple of shows ago. How are you, even if Jordan Ott, and you believe he's the best guy for the job, then you do hire him. If those are your convictions, those are your convictions. But how do you hire the guy who is on the same staff as Johnnie Bryant and is below Johnnie Bryant in terms of the head coaching pecking order? I just don't know how you do that. For years now.
I mean, they weren't always on the same staff, but 5 years as an associate head coach, making the playoffs, I want to say all but one of those seasons, and making deep playoff runs most of those seasons. Conference finals with the Knicks in 2021, or second round with the Knicks last year, second round with Cleveland this year. Like, you can't. I mean, that's why it's going to come back to burn them, right? You can't really make a case that makes any sense. And that's why people are inevitably just going to go ahead and point to the history, the Michigan State connection.
Yeah.
Because what else really can you look at? I mean, so to me, like, I think Bryant is an X's and O's guy. He's been the offensive dude for multiple coaches now. He clearly has those very personal relationships. And, you know, as at least a relatively high-level former player, although not a pro, that all tracks. I think Ott, the best way to think about him is probably more in the vein of kind of like a grinder, somebody more of a, you know, Joe Mazzulla type guy, right? Where he comes up in video and player development and things like that. Mm-hmm. He's doing this stuff in international basketball and, you know, developmental grassroots basketball and being around summer league all the time and all this stuff. Both types of coaches have succeeded. But I think that's a great way to put it, that Bryant is just clearly, he's kind of next up in the whole NBA. He's like the short list of guys you would look around the whole league and say, this guy's ready to be a coach. Whereas Ott, I think it's fair to say it's a little bit more of a risk because you're betting on his talent as a schematic guy and as just a worker to translate over to being a really good coach right away. Whereas Bryant, it's almost like the floor is so much higher.
Well, maybe it is. Like, maybe you are hiring the next Tyronn Lue with Jordan Ott, where, you know, kind of came out of nowhere. Or who's another good example of someone that just kind of Joe Mazzulla. I mean, he kind of came out of nowhere. Same with
that was the guy I just said. Yeah.
Yeah. So Joe Mazzulla. Then I'm
JJ Redick.
I guess JJ Redick.
I mean, he was a podcaster, like, obviously, but like now, you know, same kind of thing. A little bit unknown and then clicked really, really quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And that might be the case, right? You might be hiring that guy. But if Johnnie Bryant doesn't work out, no one's going to be like, I mean, you just took a risk with this guy and it didn't work out. And so for all those reasons, man, I would agree with you that, like, he's just in line for the next job and you have a chance to hire what I think would be a top 3 assistant in the NBA. Like, just make it happen. And then, listen, man, if you want Jordan Ott, just pay him to come here. And so I would ask you this really quickly.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, you know, we're coming to the close of this segment. Who do you think gets the job?
Jordan Ott.
Damn you. I'm gonna hold the line, man. I'm gonna stick with Johnny. I'm gonna stick with Johnny gets the job.
Okay. It's funny. It's like the league is telling us that Bryant is the safe hire, but I feel like internally they would see Ott as the safe hire because they have a trust in him because of that connection, right? I mean, so
yeah, I mean, it's a good devil's advocate, but if you are a team,
we made our predictions.
If you're a team that keeps on doing the wrong thing over and over and over and over and over again, and you think you're finally doing the right thing and everyone else is telling you you're not, you're probably not doing the right thing. And so that's what it kind of feels like with Jordan Ott. So I'll leave it at there. Go jumping for Johnny. Jumping for joy for Johnny, man.
Let's get to the Raptors. NBA reporters are telling us they could be a wild card aggressive team this summer. And of course, a lot of roads this offseason in the NBA lead back to Phoenix. So could there be a match? Next. First, today's show brought to you by BetterHelp. Let's talk about something that doesn't get talked about enough. That's men's mental health. There's this pressure we all have to keep it together, perform, provide, never show weakness. But the truth is, real strength comes from opening up and taking control of your mental well-being. Every year, 6 million men in the U.S. experience depression, and many of those go undiagnosed. But talking to someone, whether that's a friend, a loved one, or most especially a therapist, can make a huge difference. And a lot of us don't have friends or loved ones that we feel comfortable or that we necessarily trust to do that. But a therapist, they're just an open book. They're just there for that, literally, to help you and to listen and to be a helping hand, no judgment. Therapy isn't just for crisis or trauma or extreme situations. It can just be about being the best version of yourself, getting through day by day, week by week, year by year. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. So talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, we're back. Let's close it out. So this has come from a few different places, Ben. The Toronto Raptors expected to be aggressive. I feel like the Raptors are always simultaneously aggressive and patient. They're this kind of weird in-between team where one year they sell off Siakam low and help build the Pacers into a finals team. And then all of a sudden they're getting Brandon Ingram out of nowhere. So I don't know what to make of this. I don't know if it's true at all. Brian Windhorst said they're making noise about looking for a big fish. And of course the Suns have one of those big fish. So do you think we could hear some ties between Phoenix and Toronto before long?
You and I played this game over text. Brendon, when was the last time Toronto, like Canada, in really any sport, has gotten a big name free agent or a big trade piece that like agreed to go there or whatever, right? When was the last time they did that? Is it 2016 Kawhi, 2017 Kawhi,
18,
whatever?
yeah.
So 2018, is it 2018 Kawhi? I can't.
But even he didn't choose to go there, right? Like your
No.
caveat being like it was very begrudgingly, and then he left as soon as he could.
Now they got a championship out of it and it worked out and
Yeah,
whatever.
but
Who cares, right?
That
But
doesn't fit the criteria we're talking about of somebody who wanted to go. So yeah, it doesn't really happen. It's they allegedly wanted Ohtani and Soto and everything. Like Bosch left, like Carter, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, those guys left. Like it's not a market that people have historically wanted to go to. I think it feels very foreign to people, even though it's a big metropolitan city. It's really not that far away. Yeah. I get it, but
I just want to go into, because I want to give you the credit for this. You were the one that mentioned this a couple of days ago of like, well, who should KD go to? Well, the East, Ben. Like the East is incredibly easy. So I see why the Raptors want to do this, because they think that they can microwave this success, and they might, and like it's way more plausible than the Suns, because the East, there's no Jason Tatum. The Knicks, we'll see. The Indiana Pacers, I think maybe you think this too. We don't need to get into this debate. Like maybe they just caught lightning in a bottle a little bit. Like they're not that far off. And so I would let me just ask you this: in any trade for the Raptors, do you think there's any world? And I know this is kind of crazy, but it'll lead me into what I'm setting up, that the Suns could get back like a Scotty Barnes or something massive, because maybe the Raptors are trying to facilitate deals to get Giannis and KD on the same team. Listen, I'm not sure how they would do that, but at that point, like a forward has to go, whether it's Barnes, whether it's Brandon Ingram. Like,
well, yeah, that's the thing, right? So they have Barnes, Ingram, and RJ Barrett on their team, all making $25+ million. Those three players don't fit together. They basically all do the same thing, roughly. Barnes and Barrett don't fit, period. And then they added another one in Ingram. He's not quite the same kind of point forward, but he likes to operate inside the paint. He doesn't want to take threes, and he's not an elite defender. So already there's a logjam. And then you're talking about the two best players available this summer, as far as we know now, are Durant and Giannis, who are also forwards. So yeah, one of those players has to move. I don't think that if not both, I don't know about adding both KD and Giannis. Like, it's not impossible. They have assets. They have a lot of stuff, I guess. So I'm not saying like they can't do it. They have all their first round picks. They have plenty of young players. They have salaries. It totally could happen. But just keeping in with the Suns part of it for right now until we get there, I would say Barnes is definitely not off the table for Giannis. I would say he's probably off the table for KD, just because he's 24.
Okay.
It's as simple as that to me. Like, you're trading, even if Barnes is not as good as Durant and never is, and of course he's not going to be, you're just cashing in this, you're shortening your window kind of for no reason, but maybe you're right. Maybe the only way that there is a window at all is if they get both, because adding KD in, even if you keep Barnes, adding KD in for like RJ Barrett on this roster or Brandon Ingram, you're not a championship contender. So I don't know the plan. I don't see the plan.
Okay, so let's go down the list. I agree. Just people in the comment section screaming at us. Scotty Barnes, probably impossible, right? Okay, let's go down the list. Brandon Ingram, does that tickle your fancy at all? Like, you want to bring Brandon Ingram to Phoenix?
Nobody else on the roster is off limits for KD, so to say that. as far as what I would want and what the Suns should want, Brandon Ingram's already 28. He's paid close to a max. It's only for 2 years, but I don't want that. I don't know what purpose that serves for the Suns right now.
Okay. And so that is the only thing I can come to. Like, yes, maybe 3-teamers, maybe 4-teamers come into play. But Brendon, the reason why I don't think this is really possible, yes, I like the asset of the 9th overall pick this year, but the only way you're getting up to the money without using Ingram or Barnes is by accumulating RJ Barrett, Jaka Pirtle, Grady Dick to get Kevin Durant. And then, of course, the sweetener in that would be the 9th overall pick this year. Brendon, I don't know.
So,
like Grady Dick,
let me catch you. That's not quite true. We're skipping over Emmanuel Quickly, who to me is probably the most interesting player on this roster right now from a Sun standpoint. I mean, Barnes is better. He's not coming. Ingram is probably better, but he's not useful. And then Barrett, mileage may vary. I think he's still developing, even though he's been around for a while. So Quickly, to me, he's overpaid, I think, for what he's been in the league. He's making $33 million a year for the next 4 seasons. They locked him in for a while. And that is an overpay based on he's not really anything more than kind of a microwave scorer, and he is already 26, so it's not like he's super young. But I think if you got him in to more of a real system on offense with talent around him, and obviously Booker would be the best 2 guard he's ever played with, and, some defensive talent, which he has in Toronto, I could see him getting up to at least being like, that's a reasonable pay. Now, I don't need Jaka Pirtle around. So if you could maybe send him to a 3rd team, take Quickly in, and then get some of their young players, we're starting to talk about something I could get behind. Now, there's a lot of salary to fill between 33 where Quickly is and 50 where KD is. So, it would kind of get complicated. Like you said, a 3rd team almost feels like it would have to be involved with this type of trade, but that's been true with almost everything we've said. So, yeah, look, they have the 9th overall pick this year. They have all their picks going forward. Quickly send Pirtle to a 3rd team. Maybe you get Dick or Jacoby Walter or something like that. Mobo, the center guy that they just drafted, one of those players, and some picks. It's at least competitive with some of the other offers we've talked about.
Well, it is competitive. I think you're trying to get more picks than you are players. Not going to act like I've watched a ton of Toronto Raptors basketball, but from what I've seen, Grady Dick he's whatever. Emmanuel Quickly, I don't know why I forgot about Emmanuel Quickly, was over with the Knicks. If I'm not mistaken, won 6th man of the year with the Knicks, or did he finish 2nd?
I think so. He was in the mix, yeah.
Well, there you go. Former 6th man of the year runner, in that campaign. But I'm more interested in the picks than I am the players. This isn't like a Rockets thing where I'm like, oh, Jabari Smith. Like, I'm just not there. So this is one of the lower offers. And also, can we just say this really quickly? We know Kevin Durant is going to have some say in whatever team he goes to. Brendon, what's the likelihood, unless Giannis is coming with him, that he would go to the Raptors?
Yeah, and even if, like we have been talking, and you're right to say that the East fact of this team, like, might be one of the most appealing parts of coming here, but even if that's true, there's a where should KD want to go just in general. There's also where would he actually sign an extension? And those are kind of hand in hand, but I don't think he would want to stay in Toronto. And so that, of course, it's kind of like it just depletes the market. You could trade him somewhere he doesn't want to go, but that team's only going to give you back so much, which is exactly what happened with Kawhi as a perfect example with this exact team. So, yeah, I honestly think the Giannis thing might be more likely for them because he's somebody where if you get him, you're almost at least in the mix as a playoff team right away. So it kind of makes more sense to go all out to get him and then go from there, whereas Durant kind of has to be the finishing touch of a team. Like, he has to be the thing, I think, at 37 now with few years left that kind of puts you over the top. And they're just not in a put you over the top kind of position.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you said in terms of like the Raptors fit with KD. I do think Giannis, again, would be more attainable, but also like not very attainable. Like, I just don't think it's very real. And also, I just think it's a little out of left field, even with the East being so wide open. The Raptors are just really far away. Like, Scotty Barnes is a nice piece. I used to really like Brandon Ingram years ago, like 2022 Brandon Ingram. I thought he was a good player. Again, I'm with you. not necessarily like that guy that's going to put you over the top. So Giannis, yes. KD, I mean, probably no to both, if I'm just being honest with it.
Yeah, they're not going to be at the top of the list for either one, but they do kind of have a Godfather offer if they want it, for Giannis at least. Scotty Barnes, all their picks and swaps, some other young players. Like, it's kind of hard for a lot of other
we can
teams
interest
to beat
them
that.
we can interest them in a Bradley Beal.
Yeah, there you go. That'll wrap us up. Hit follow, subscribe if you haven't already. Coming every day. We are getting a head coach this week. I've been saying that for days. I mean it this time. Let's keep it right here. Enjoy your Tuesday. Talk to you tomorrow.